When we begin to study animals, we do not forget the greatness and ability of God Almighty and notice how each animal in a given environment was created to adapt to its environment and has the ability to deal with it, no matter how difficult or impossible it may be for humans. That is why we constantly find ourselves constantly developing how animals work, how they benefit, and how they can be invented to facilitate our life. One of the abilities that some animals are believed to possess is the ability to detect natural disasters, such as earthquakes and volcanoes, in advance. On the other hand, we can know when these disasters actually happened or have already happened. The development of devices has begun to warn us of the approaching disasters. However, such devices are not yet effective, and according to eyewitnesses, animals can detect disasters before us. The question here is whether animals can actually detect natural disasters, and if so, how can they detect disasters before they happen? Hello, my name is Moni Muhammad, and welcome to InfoQuest. If you are new to the channel, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell button on all to receive all our new videos. On the morning of December 26, 2004, it was a pleasant day in Indonesia as the sun was shining, calm, and suitable for the coastal climate of the Indian Ocean. At 7:59 p.m., that calm turned into chaos, confusion, and fear due to an undersea earthquake of magnitude 9.1 on the Richter scale. One earthquake hit the Indian Ocean, triggering a series of tsunami waves. The height of the waves reached 9 meters, and most of these waves washed away beaches, houses, roads, and people, and the waves reached remote coastal areas such as East Africa, as well as Indonesia and other Asian countries. When the disaster was over and people began to understand what had happened, official reports were issued from all countries affected by the tsunami. A series of reports stated that at least 225,000 people from 12 countries had died. One of the strange things that remained topical and controversial at the time was that some witnesses who survived the disaster said strange things, such as that animals, especially the famous Indonesian elephants, were running like crazy and moving in strange ways, or workers climbing to high places, hours before the disaster. Even the birds abandoned their nests and flew away, the dogs nervously hid inside their houses, and even the locals almost unanimously agreed that a herd of buffaloes on the shore nervously looked out to sea and then fled towards the top of the nearby hills. They started talking about the behavior of animals before the natural disasters, and then they began to expand on the behavior of animals before the natural disasters, and then they began to expand on that a little, creating stories and legends that scientists proved to be untrue. As rumors spread, researchers began to take serious steps to study history to find out how animals behaved before the disasters. Animals of various kinds have shown unusual behavior in many other disasters, ranging from tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, and earthquakes, and while this topic is not new, Thucydides, one of the philosophers of Greece, stated in 373 BC that snakes and dogs had deserted the city of Hellas a few days before a catastrophic earthquake, and research has revealed that the events are recorded. For example, in 2014, a group of Japanese researchers made a very curious step by tracking the amount of milk produced by cows on one of their farms. This question of the amount of milk may be a bit surprising, but the fact is that cows produce almost constant amounts of milk every day. Any changes that cows feel affect their daily activities, including milk production. What happened is that about 3 weeks before the earthquake in the region, the amount of milk that the cows were producing decreased significantly due to stress. The researchers could not figure out how the cows knew that the earthquake would happen 3 weeks ago, but at least a connection between the two desires was proven. There have been many studies that have proven that animals have this ability, the most famous of which is a study by the Max Planck Institute for Behavioral Research, where experiments were conducted on cattle, sheep, and dogs. In this study, researchers placed tracking collars to measure the speed of animals on a farm in an earthquake-prone area in the Marche region of Italy. The data tracked by the collars showed the researchers that the animals' movements changed significantly 20 hours before an earthquake in the area, and that their behavior changed as the earthquake approached. To understand this problem, scientists began to study the changes associated with the disaster itself and concluded that animals can detect disasters by landmarks associated with the disaster. Some scientists have hypothesized that animals and birds can sense vibrations generated by tectonic plates in the Earth's crust. And although this statement lacks solid evidence and cannot be scientifically proven, nevertheless it was taken by scientists, and there are other strong assumptions that animals can notice changes and cracks in the Earth's crust as a result of vibration. That is, they can notice cracks in the Earth's crust in the country. In addition, the pressure caused by the movement of tectonic plates breaks the chemical bonds between the minerals present in the air and water, which makes the air electrically charged, and animals can feel this change in their fur, and since the acidity of the water also changes when the bonds between the minerals are broken. Frogs and amphibians generally come out of the water suddenly before the earthquake, and their breeding period is observed to be interrupted. This is due to the fact that the skin of amphibians is very toxic and consumes a lot of water. One of the animals that showed the most strange behavior before the earthquake was the frog, which came out of hiding in the depths of the snow and sometimes even died. At first, scientists thought that it was a suicide, but the fact is that it was a reaction to an expected approaching natural disaster, in which she comes out of her lair and faces ice and extreme cold, and dies in the process. You may be surprised to learn that insects can signal the approach of natural disasters. Only ants have been studied, and studies have shown that they are extremely sensitive to disasters and can detect even slight changes in temperature and electromagnetic fields. However, ants also sense changes in the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. These are all indicators of the approach of natural disasters, hence the researchers began to use ants to predict earthquakes. When ants begin to detect changes, ants come out of their burrows in an unusual way, regenerating or going as a group to see where they live. However, often the change is too big for them, and many ants begin to die. Researchers see this story and always know that an earthquake is coming due to the difficulty of predicting earthquakes and the fact that some countries do not have established warning systems. The question arises whether these animals and their signals can be used to prepare for natural disasters. In 2020, a research paper was published by a group of German and Russian scientists. The research paper builds on previous work, some of which were presented, and proposes to track a large number of animals, reptiles, and birds in various seismic zones around the world and analyze their migration patterns using computer algorithms. And although the topic seems complicated, difficult, and expensive, the project has been approved and is currently being implemented. Data on the movements of thousands of animals around the world is collected by a monitoring system called ICAROS on the ISS, and although it is rather expensive and is still being studied, it remains a big step forward in the world of sensors.